Hello, it's Echo, and welcome to another video. And today I'm going to be starting a brand new sketchbook. If you've seen one of my recent shorts, you would know that this is long overdue because my current sketchbook looks like this. So let's decorate the first spread together. I made this little thumbnail in my other sketchbook and I fell in love with this idea. I wanted this first page to feel very vibrant and fresh with lots of saturated colors. It felt a little bit intimidating starting off the sketch. I haven't started a new sketchbook in a couple of years, so it's always a bit of a challenge to start, but I was really excited. I decided to do the sketch with regular graphite. Originally, I was going to use a colored pencil, but I wanted to be able to erase more easily. Sometimes the colored pencils can be a little bit stubborn. Drawing underwater scenes is very new for me, so I had to look at a couple different references for corals, jellyfish, and just other various underwater scenes. And oh my goodness, I had no idea that corals came in so many cool colors and funky shapes. It's insane that naturally occurring things can be so vibrant. And for the coloring, of course, I have to use my favorite alcohol markers, Ohuhu. It was a bit scary using them on this paper though. Alcohol markers will look so drastically different depending on the kind of paper that you use, and this was my first time ever using this paper. So I had to swatch out all of the colors on the next page. It was super important to me that I get the exact colors that I wanted. Also, it was a little bit of a learning curve to work with blues and greens because those are colors I don't really gravitate towards. The entire time I was coloring, I was always pulling away and kind of squinting my eyes a bit to see if all the colors were complementing each other or clashing. Surprisingly, I found that it was a very thin line to walk. As always for alcohol markers, I'm starting off with the lightest, most pastel colors that I possibly can, and then I'm slowly building up the darker values. Unlike other art supplies, if I go too dark, I can't just paint over it and remove that. I have to build up starting from light. I wasn't entirely sure what I wanted the lighting to be exactly. I knew I wanted there to be kind of a glow around the jellyfish or kind of like a central lighting where everything focuses in on that spot. I'm not sure if I really did a good job highlighting that though. I had to cut a lot of footage because I just build up the layers over and over and over again, just very lightly getting the colors that I want. When I get the background to a point I'm actually happy with, I start going in and adding all of the base colors for everything else, like the corals, the sand at the bottom, and the jellyfish itself. I'm not getting super detailed with the alcohol markers here because I will be going over with colored pencils later. And I'm not being super accurate, like if some colors overlap, that's completely okay because that's something I can kind of fix with the colored pencils as well. My goal for this sketchbook is not perfection, but consistency and just letting go. Just sketching what I want to sketch with, no intention for it to be super good. So even in the final product of this drawing, it's not going to be perfect, and that's okay. I'm still really happy and really proud, and the process was so much fun. And let me know down in the comments if you have a sketchbook or you're planning to start a new one soon. Now I'm going in with some darker colors and adding some shadows and some contrast because everything is looking very one note. So I'm going with some really dark colors now and adding some definition. I wanted there to be something of kind of every color in the rainbow here. So we have like some pink, some blue, some green, some yellow, and we'll have some purple. I think all of the different colors really tie the whole piece together and kind of guide your eye to different areas of the drawing. Now I'm going to be adding like some seaweed or some plants in the back, and I was really unhappy with how these were looking at the beginning. I was trying to find the perfect green shade, but I ended up going with a green that I didn't like. It was way too dark, and I wanted the plants to look like they were in the background very subtly, but I made a mistake and I just had to go with it, and it ends out all right in the end. I'm adding some more saturation to all of the corals now, especially the pink ones, because the pink was looking a little too muted, so I add that, and also going over this green coral with a brighter green and some yellow. It was feeling a little unbalanced because there's lots of yellow on the right side, and I wanted to bring the yellow over to the left side. I think this piece was really inspired by summertime, really hot weather. Everybody is kind of melting in the heat waves that have been going on, so I kind of wanted to create a piece that when you look at it, it makes you feel kind of refreshed, like you're drinking a glass of cold water or something. Now I'm finally starting on the jellyfish, and I'm just kind of going and highlighting these little tentacles and little tendrils, whatever they're called. I'm kind of making those pop out a bit more since I was losing them. I originally wanted to make them very light, but that wasn't really going to be an option because the background was so light, so I decided to make them darker, and then I'm just going to use a paint marker over them later. I'm coloring in the bell of the jellyfish with a super bright blue. I love this color, and then I'm using this kind of sea foam color to blend that in. Now I'm going over the background once again with a little bit of a more saturated blue to kind of bring everything together again since we're losing some contrast. Instead of using a desaturated color for the shadows, specifically for the coral, I'm just going for a more saturated version of the color. So for this yellow one, I'm going with an orange. For this blue coral, I'm going for a blue. Instead of losing color, I want to bring more color in. Now I finally feel I'm at a point where I really can't do all that much with the alcohol markers anymore, so I'm switching over to my colored pencils. And primarily for this piece, I'm using Prismacolor and Faber-Castell. The set of Faber-Castells that I have some really beautiful blue colors that I think work great in this piece. I originally sketched out my whole little thumbnail solely with the Faber-Castell pencils. I'm going over all of the little tendrils with a colored pencil because they were really getting lost in the background, so I wanted to make them stand out so I'm not so lost later. For all of the outlining and all of the little details, I'm trying to use the brightest pencils that I have so I keep everything very vibrant. Now we're kind of at the halfway point and I am done working on this for today, and I'm gonna come back tomorrow and finish it. On to day 2, I immediately knew that I wanted to up the saturation on the background, so I go in with a little bit of green because I wanted to add a little bit more of that in the background, and then I'm going to go over everything with a blue. Like I said earlier, just going in with lots and lots of layers, alternating between green and the blue, and a deeper blue and a lighter blue, just really building up the color slowly so I don't push it too far because, like I said earlier, this is irreversible. There's nothing I can really do once I push it too far. The perfect example is the kelp / seaweed in the background. I'm not happy with that, and it's way darker than I expected, but I gotta live with it because it's there now. I had a lot of fun going in and doing all of the little details for the coral and on the ocean floor. I really love drawing like these tiny little, almost like barnacle looking corals. I'm not sure what these are called. Tube corals, I think. They were so fun to draw. I go in and define the jellyfish quite a bit because I want it to really stand out amongst all of the other background elements. I think my favorite part of this whole piece, excluding the jellyfish, is this set of corals right here. I don't know why, but the shape and the color were just super fun for me, and I had a lot of fun putting like a whole bunch of different colors. Like I used a little bit of pink, I used a little bit of red, I used a little bit of blue, and I think these came out really, really cool. I had a bit of a hard time figuring out the perspective I wanted to do on this fan coral, so it's very much not super realistic because it was difficult for me to try and get that depth in the center to make it look like all of the different layers were separated, but you know what? That's okay. I tried my best, and that's all that matters. I go in with a dark purple and add in all of the details and the shadows, and I also add a little bit of blue to bring a different pop of color. I also go over some of the kelp in the background with a little bit of blue, and I try and go in and define the different segments of the leaves with a little bit of green. I'm adding some little fish silhouettes in the background. I want these to look very far in the background, so I'm just coloring them in very, very lightly and adding a few different size variations. Starting from the bottom, I go over with a blue pencil just to bring in some more bright blue color to the bottom because I feel like it was a little bit too light. I do this many, many times, just building up the layers with my colored pencils. Now I'm going in with a dark purple and adding some definition to the floor. And sorry, this was a little bit out of frame. I kind of had to maneuver the sketchbook in a weird way so I could see it properly. Now I'm going in with my Artex paint marker. I'm just going in with the white and I'm adding some highlights to the jellyfish. I try and bring all of these little tentacles that are getting lost in the background and in this blue coral over here, I try and make them pop out so you can see them better. I also add some white highlights to the bell just to draw your eye more towards it. I think it's time for me to get a new white marker because this one is getting a little bit dry. As you can see, it's not super pigmented here. I also go in and add other various highlights to the corals, not really for any specific reason, but just because I wanted to. And here is the final piece. I had so much fun making this. It is exactly how I wanted it to be. It's so fresh, so fruitigear arrow, so bubbly. I'm super proud. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you all next time. Bye!